A black couple's wedding venue was canceled by a racist owner just 2 weeks before their big day, leaving them heartbroken. But now, they own the most sought-after venue in town. How did this couple turn rejection into triumph and create the most beloved wedding spot in the area? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. David and Angela stood hand in hand, their eyes sparkling with joy as they gazed at each other. They had been planning their wedding for over a year, and now, with just a few weeks to go, their excitement was bubbling over. "Can you believe it's almost here?" Angela whispered, her voice filled with wonder. She squeezed David's hand, her heart fluttering with happiness. David smiled, his love for Angela shining in his eyes. "I know, sweetheart. It feels like a dream come true." The couple had poured their hearts into every detail of their special day. From the flowers to the music, they had carefully chosen each element to reflect their love story. But nothing made them happier than the venue they had secured. "I still can't get over how lucky we were to book the Grand Manor," Angela said, her face glowing with excitement. "It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen." David nodded, remembering the day they had first visited the Grand Manor. Its elegant architecture and sprawling gardens had taken their breath away. They knew instantly that it was the perfect backdrop for their wedding. "It's going to be magical," David agreed, pulling Angela close. "Just like you." Angela blushed, her cheeks turning a soft pink. She rested her head on David's shoulder, feeling safe and loved in his embrace. As they stood there, lost in their own world, they couldn't help but imagine their wedding day. They pictured themselves walking down the aisle, surrounded by their loved ones, in the grand ballroom of the Grand Manor. "I can't wait to see you in your wedding dress," David murmured, his voice full of tenderness. Angela's eyes sparkled with mischief. "You'll have to wait and see," she teased. "But I promise, it'll be worth the wait." They laughed together, their joy infectious. The closer they got to their wedding day, the more their excitement grew. Every detail they finalized, every decision they made, brought them one step closer to their dream. "You know what I'm looking forward to the most?" David asked, his voice soft. Angela looked up at him, curiosity in her eyes. "What's that?" "Starting our life together as husband and wife," he replied, his words filled with love and promise. Tears of happiness welled up in Angela's eyes. She reached up and touched David's cheek gently. "Me too," she whispered. "I love you so much." As they stood there wrapped in each other's arms, they felt truly blessed. Their love, their dreams, and the perfect venue. Everything was falling into place for their unforgettable day. As the wedding day drew near, David and Angela found themselves caught up in a whirlwind of final preparations. They spent their evenings going over checklists, making sure every detail was perfect. Their excitement was palpable, filling their small apartment with laughter and joy. One sunny afternoon, they decided to visit the Grand Manor one last time before the big day. As they drove up the long, winding driveway, Angela's heart fluttered with anticipation. "Oh, David," she breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's even more beautiful than I remembered." David squeezed her hand, his smile just as bright. "It sure is, sweetheart. Just like you." They walked hand in hand through the grand entrance, marveling at the ornate chandeliers and polished marble floors. The staff greeted them warmly, excited to see the happy couple again. As they toured the venue, Angela couldn't help but picture their wedding day. She imagined the ballroom filled with their loved ones, the sound of music and laughter echoing off the walls. "Can you believe it, David?" she asked, her voice soft with awe. "In just a few days, we'll be saying our vows right here." David pulled her close, planting a gentle kiss on her forehead. "I can't wait to make you my wife," he whispered. Their joy was infectious, spreading to everyone around them. Their friends and family called often, sharing in their excitement and offering help with last-minute tasks. Angela's best friend Sarah dropped by one evening with a surprise. "I just couldn't wait to give you this," she said, handing Angela a small, beautifully wrapped package. Inside was a delicate silver locket. When Angela opened it, She found a tiny photo of her and David on one side and an engraving on the other that read, "Love always." Tears welled up in Angela's eyes as she hugged her friend tightly. "It's perfect," she whispered. "Thank you so much." As the days ticked by, David and Angela felt a sense of calm settle over them. Everything was in place, every detail carefully planned. They were ready to start their new life together, surrounded by the love of their friends and family, in the beautiful setting of the Grand Manor. Just 2 weeks before their big day, David and Angela's world came crashing down around them. It was a quiet Tuesday evening when David's phone buzzed with an unexpected email. As he read it, his face drained of color. "Angela," he called out, his voice shaking, "you need to see this." Angela rushed over, her heart racing at the sound of distress in David's voice. She leaned in to read the email, her eyes widening in disbelief. The message was from the Grand Manor, the venue they had chosen for their wedding. It was a cancellation notice, short and vague, stating that they could no longer host the event due to unforeseen circumstances. "This can't be right," Angela whispered, her voice barely audible. "There must be some mistake." David immediately dialed the venue's number, his fingers trembling as he punched in the digits. But all he got was a busy signal. He tried again and again, each attempt more desperate than the last. Angela sank onto the couch, her mind reeling. "What are we going to do?" she asked, tears welling up in her eyes. "Our wedding is in 2 weeks. Everything was planned. Everyone is coming." David sat beside her, pulling her close. He wanted to be strong for her, but he felt just as lost and confused. "I don't know, sweetheart," he admitted, "but we'll figure it out. We have to." They spent the next few hours in a frantic state, calling the venue repeatedly and leaving countless messages. They reached out to their wedding planner, hoping she might have some insight or connections that could help. But as the night wore on, they were left with nothing but unanswered questions and a growing sense of despair. Their dream wedding, the day they had spent over a year planning, was suddenly hanging by a thread. The beautiful vision of exchanging vows in the Grand Manor's elegant ballroom seemed to be slipping away with each passing minute. As they lay in bed that night, neither able to sleep, Angela turned to David. "Why would they do this to us?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. "And why won't they give us a real explanation?" David wished he had answers for her, but he was just as baffled and hurt. He held her close, feeling her tears soak into his shirt. "I don't know," he said softly, "but we're in this together. No matter what happens, we have each other." David and Angela spent the next day in a frenzy, trying desperately to reach someone at the Grand Manor who could explain the sudden cancellation. They called repeatedly, but each time they were met with a busy signal or sent to voicemail. "This is ridiculous," David muttered, frustration evident in his voice as he dialed the number for the 10th time that morning. "They can't just cancel on us without any explanation." Angela nodded, her eyes red from a sleepless night. She was scrolling through her phone, frantically searching for alternative venues. "Everything's booked," she said, her voice cracking. "I can't find a single place available on such short notice." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, David's call went through. The owner of the Grand Manor, Ms. Thompson, answered with a curt, "Hello." "Ms. Thompson," David said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is David. We're scheduled to have our wedding at your venue, but we received a cancellation notice. There must be some mistake." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Ms. Thompson spoke, her words were careful and measured. "I'm sorry, but there's no mistake. We won't be able to host your wedding." "But why?" Angela chimed in, her voice filled with desperation. "We've been planning this for over a year. Everything is set. Please, just tell us what's going on." Ms. Thompson cleared her throat uncomfortably. "It's complicated. There are circumstances beyond our control. I'm afraid I can't discuss it further." David felt his anger rising. "That's not good enough. We deserve a real explanation. You can't just cancel on us without a reason." "I understand your frustration," Ms. Thompson replied, her tone becoming more distant. "But as I said, it's out of our hands. We'll refund your deposit in full. I'm sorry, but that's all I can do." Before David could protest further, the line went dead. He stared at the phony in disbelief, then looked at Angela, who had tears streaming down her face. "What are we going to do?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. David pulled her into a tight embrace, feeling utterly helpless. They had no venue, no explanation, and seemingly no options. Their perfect day was crumbling before their eyes, and they were powerless to stop it. As the days passed, David and Angela's frustration turned to confusion, and then to a sinking realization. Whispers began to circulate through their community, whispers that made their hearts heavy with a familiar pain. "Did you hear about the Grand Manor?" Angela's cousin Tanya asked hesitantly over coffee one afternoon. "There's talk that they've done this before, to other black couples." Angela's eyes widened, her hand trembling as she set down her mug. "What do you mean?" Tanya's voice was soft, filled with sympathy. "A friend of mine, her sister, had the same thing happen last year. Last-minute cancellation. No real explanation. And then I started asking around." David, who had been listening quietly, felt a surge of anger. "You're saying they're discriminating against us because we're black?" The weight of this realization settled over them like a heavy blanket. It wasn't just about their wedding anymore. It was about something much larger and more insidious. That evening, as they sat in their living room, surrounded by wedding plans that now seemed pointless, Angela broke down. "How can people still be so cruel?" she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. David held her close, his own eyes stinging with unshed tears. For a moment, they allowed themselves to feel the full force of their pain and anger. But as the minutes ticked by, something began to shift within them. Angela lifted her head, wiping her eyes. "We can't let them win," she said, her voice gaining strength. "We can't let this hatred ruin our day." David nodded, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. "You're right. We're not going to wallow in this. We're going to find a solution." They spent the next few hours brainstorming, their spirits lifting with each idea. They called friends, family, and community leaders, sharing their story and asking for help. "Maybe we can't change the Grand Manor," David said, "but we can create something beautiful out of this mess." Angela smiled, really smiled for the first time in days. "You're right. We're going to have our wedding, and it's going to be even more special now. Because it'll be about love and community, not just about us." As they worked late into the night, making calls and sending messages, David and Angela felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were determined to turn this act of discrimination into an opportunity for change and unity. The next morning, Angela's phone rang early. It was her Aunt Mabel, her voice filled with excitement. "Angela, honey, I think I might have an idea for you and David," Aunt Mabel said. "You remember that old Willow Creek mansion on the edge of town?" Angela frowned, trying to recall. "The abandoned one?" "That's the one. It's been sitting empty for years. Nobody's shown any interest in it, but I was thinking, what if you could use it for your wedding?" Angela's heart skipped a beat. She quickly put the phone on speaker so David could hear. "I don't know, Aunt Mabel," David said hesitantly. "An abandoned mansion? It might be falling apart." Aunt Mabel chuckled. "Oh, it needs some work, sure, but it's got good bones and that grand ballroom. It could be magical with a little love." Angela and David exchanged glances. They were desperate, but was this too far-fetched? "It's worth a look, isn't it?" Angela said softly. David nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. That afternoon, they drove out to Willow Creek Mansion. As they pulled up the overgrown driveway, Angela gasped. Despite years of neglect, the mansion stood proud, its weathered facade hinting at past grandeur. "It's beautiful," she whispered, squeezing David's hand. They stepped out of the car, crunching through fallen leaves. The front door creaked open, revealing a dusty foyer. Sunlight streamed through dirty windows, illuminating intricate woodwork and faded wallpaper. "Look at this place," David said, his voice filled with awe. "It's like stepping back in time." They wandered through room after room, their footsteps echoing in the empty spaces. When they reached the ballroom, Angela's eyes widened. "David," she breathed, "can you imagine? With some cleaning, maybe some flowers." David nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "And lights. Lots of twinkling lights." As they stood there, hand in hand, surrounded by years of dust and forgotten memories, something shifted. The abandoned mansion no longer seemed like a desperate last resort. Instead, it felt like a canvas waiting for their love story to unfold. "What do you think?" Angela asked, her eyes shining with hope. "Should we give it a shot?" David pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "I think we just found our miracle." As David and Angela explored the mansion further, the full extent of its dilapidated state became apparent. Cobwebs clung to every corner, and dust coated every surface. The once grand staircase creaked ominously under their feet, and patches of mold dotted the peeling wallpaper. Outside, the grounds were a tangle of overgrown weeds and gnarled branches. The fountain in the center of the garden was cracked and dry, its stone cherubs barely visible beneath years of neglect. Angela's heart sank as she took in the scene. "Oh, David," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What were we thinking? This place is falling apart." David squeezed her hand gently. "I know it looks rough," he said, his eyes scanning the room. "But can't you see it? The bones of this place are still strong." He led her to a large window, wiping away years of grime with his sleeve. Sunlight streamed in, illuminating the intricate moldings on the ceiling and the delicate patterns in the weathered hardwood floors. "Look at that," David said softly. "With some elbow grease and a little imagination, this could be magical." Angela's eyes widened as she began to see beyond the decay. She could picture fairy lights twinkling from the rafters, flowers adorning every surface, and their loved ones gathered in celebration. "You're right," she breathed, a smile spreading across her face. "It's perfect." David pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "So, what do you say? Should we take this leap of faith?" Angela looked up at him, her eyes shining with determination. "Let's do it," she said firmly. "This is our chance to turn something forgotten into something beautiful." They stood there for a moment, surrounded by dust and decay, yet filled with hope and possibility. The abandoned mansion, once a symbol of their desperation, now represented a new beginning. "We've got a lot of work ahead of us," David said, grinning. "But together, I think we can make this place shine." Angela nodded, her heart swelling with love and excitement. "Together," she agreed. "Let's make our dream wedding happen right here." As word spread about David and Angela's predicament and their bold plan to renovate the abandoned mansion, their community rallied around them. Friends, family, and even strangers touched by their story began to show up at the property, ready to lend a hand. The once quiet mansion grounds buzzed with activity. People of all ages and backgrounds worked side by side, united in their goal to create a beautiful wedding venue for the couple. David's cousin, a carpenter by trade, led a team in repairing the creaky staircase and reinforcing weak floorboards. Angela's best friend, an artist, organized a group to strip away old wallpaper and apply fresh coats of paint in soft, welcoming colors. Outside, volunteers cleared away years of overgrowth, revealing hidden pathways and secret gardens. The old fountain was lovingly restored, its cherubs emerging from beneath layers of grime to smile once again. As the days passed, the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. What had seemed an impossible task began to take shape as a labor of love. The mansion slowly came back to life, each repaired window and polished surface a testament to the power of community and determination. Angela found herself overwhelmed with emotion as she watched her aunt teach a group of children how to plant flowers along the newly cleared pathways. "I can't believe how many people have come to help us," she said, wiping away a tear. David wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "This is what real love looks like," he said softly. "Not just between us, but in all these people who've shown up for us." The couple worked tirelessly alongside their helpers, their hearts swelling with gratitude and hope. What had started as a desperate solution was blossoming into something far more meaningful than they could have imagined. As the sun began to set on another day of hard work, David and Angela gathered everyone in the main hall. The space, now clean and bright, echoed with the sound of laughter and conversation. "We can't thank you all enough," David began, his voice thick with emotion. "What you've done here isn't just about our wedding. It's about showing that love and community can overcome anything." Angela nodded, squeezing David's hand. "This place isn't just going to be for us," she added. "We want it to be a symbol of hope for everyone, a place where all couples can celebrate their love no matter who they are." As the restoration efforts continued, the old mansion began to shed its neglected appearance, revealing a hidden beauty that had been dormant for years. Each day brought new progress, and with it, a growing sense of excitement and possibility. David and Angela found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. They worked alongside their friends and family, tackling tasks big and small. The couple often paused in their work, marveling at the transformation taking place before their eyes. One afternoon, as Angela helped clean the ornate windows in the grand ballroom, she caught sight of her reflection. Her face was smudged with dirt, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, but her eyes shone with happiness. She turned to see David across the room, carefully repairing a broken chair leg. Their eyes met, and they shared a smile that spoke volumes about their gratitude and love. The support they received was overwhelming. Local businesses, hearing about their story, began to donate supplies. A florist offered to provide arrangements for the wedding at no cost. A catering company volunteered their services, inspired by the couple's resilience. As word spread, more volunteers arrived each day. Strangers became friends as they worked side by side, united in their desire to help David and Angela realize their dream. The mansion, once a symbol of abandonment, was now a testament to the power of community and love. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the newly landscaped gardens, David and Angela stood hand in hand, taking in the sight. The old fountain, now restored and bubbling merrily, sparkled in the fading light. Fresh paint gleamed on the mansion's exterior, and the windows shone like diamonds. "I can't believe how much has changed," Angela whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It's more beautiful than I ever imagined." David squeezed her hand, his eyes misty with emotion. "It's not just the mansion that's beautiful," he said softly. "Look at all these people, working together, caring for us. This is what real community looks like." As they watched, a group of volunteers emerged from the house, laughing and chatting. The couple felt a deep sense of belonging, of being part of something larger than themselves. Their dream venue was indeed coming to life, but it was the outpouring of love and support that truly touched their hearts. As the final days before the wedding arrived, the once-abandoned mansion buzzed with activity. Volunteers scurried about, adding the finishing touches that would transform the restored building into a breathtaking wedding venue. David and Angela stood in the center of the grand ballroom, their eyes wide with wonder. Crystal chandeliers, lovingly cleaned and repaired, sparkled overhead. The polished wooden floors gleamed, reflecting the soft light that streamed through the tall windows. Garlands of fresh flowers adorned the walls, their sweet fragrance filling the air. "It's like a fairy tale," Angela whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She turned to David, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Can you believe this is really happening?" David wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. "It's more than I ever dreamed possible," he said softly, "and it's all because of the love that surrounds us." As they walked through the mansion, memories of the past few weeks flooded their minds. They remembered the initial shock and despair when their original venue had canceled, the painful realization of the discrimination they had faced. But those dark moments were now overshadowed by the incredible outpouring of support they had received. In the newly landscaped garden, they paused by the restored fountain. Its gentle trickle provided a soothing backdrop as they reflected on their journey. "You know," Angela said, her fingers intertwined with David's, "I think this whole experience has made our wedding even more special. It's not just about us anymore. It's about our entire community coming together." David nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Every corner of this place holds a story now. The love and dedication of our friends and family are woven into the very fabric of this building. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the mansion, David and Angela felt a renewed sense of joy and anticipation. Their wedding would be more than just a celebration of their love. It would be a testament to the power of community, resilience, and hope. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating David and Angela's special day. The restored mansion stood proudly against the blue sky, its freshly painted walls gleaming in the sunlight. As Angela arrived with her bridesmaids, she gasped in awe. The entrance was adorned with a stunning floral arch, its vibrant blooms perfectly complementing the mansion's elegant facade. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took in the sight. "It's so beautiful," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I can't believe this is really happening." Inside, David was getting ready with his groomsmen in one of the mansion's newly refurbished rooms. He stood before a grand mirror, adjusting his tie with shaky hands. The nerves he felt were quickly overshadowed by a wave of gratitude as he looked around at his friends and family bustling about. "You guys," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done." Meanwhile, in another room, Angela slipped into her wedding dress with the help of her mother and sisters. The antique full-length mirror, lovingly restored by a local craftsman, reflected her radiant image. She twirled slowly, watching as the delicate lace of her gown caught the light. "Oh, sweetie," her mother said, wiping away a tear. "You look absolutely stunning." As guests began to arrive, they marveled at the transformation of the once-abandoned mansion. The grand staircase, now gleaming with polish, was draped with garlands of flowers. The ballroom, where the ceremony would take place, took everyone's breath away with its sparkling chandeliers and elegant decor. David and Angela's friends and family moved about the mansion, their faces beaming with pride and joy. They pointed out details to each other, a repaired stained glass window here, a beautifully restored piece of furniture there, each element a testament to the community's love and support. As the time for the ceremony drew near, a palpable excitement filled the air. The mansion, once a symbol of their struggles, now stood as a beautiful representation of their journey and the strength of their community. David and Angela, in their separate rooms, took deep breaths, ready to step into the next chapter of their lives together. As the sun reached its zenith, casting a warm glow over the mansion's gardens, David stood at the altar, his heart pounding with anticipation. The restored fountain trickled softly behind him, its gentle sound a soothing backdrop to the momentous occasion. A hush fell over the gathered crowd as the first notes of the wedding march filled the air. David's breath caught in his throat as Angela appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in her flowing white gown. Her smile, brighter than the sun itself, lit up the entire garden. With each step Angela took, David felt his love for her grow even stronger. Tears of joy glistened in his eyes as she reached him, taking his hands in hers. The officiant began the ceremony, but David and Angela were lost in each other's gaze, the world around them fading away. As they exchanged their vows, their voices filled with emotion, the assembled guests wiped away tears. The couple's words spoke not just of their love for each other, but of the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. "Angela," David said, his voice trembling slightly, "you are my rock, my inspiration. Together, we've turned adversity into triumph, and I promise to stand by your side through whatever life brings us." Angela squeezed David's hands, her own voice thick with emotion as she responded, "David, your strength and kindness have been my guiding light. I vow to love you, support you, and face every challenge with you, just as we did to make this day possible." As they exchanged rings, a symbol of their unbreakable bond, a collective sigh of happiness rippled through the crowd. The officiant's words, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," were met with thunderous applause and cheers. David and Angela shared their first kiss as a married couple, and in that moment, they felt the overwhelming love and support of their community washing over them. As they turned to face their guests, they saw not just friends and family, but a united group of people who had come together to make their dream a reality. In the weeks following their beautiful wedding, David and Angela settled into married life, their hearts still full of joy from their special day. They often reminisced about how their community had come together to transform the old mansion into a stunning venue. Little did they know that their story of triumph over adversity was about to touch more lives. One sunny afternoon, as they were sorting through their wedding photos, David's phone rang. He answered, putting it on speaker so Angela could hear. The voice on the other end belonged to a woman named Tasha, who sounded upset and desperate. "I'm sorry to bother you," Tasha began, her voice trembling. "My fiancé Marcus and we heard about what happened with your wedding venue. The same thing just happened to us." David and Angela exchanged worried glances. Angela leaned closer to the phone. "We're so sorry to hear that, Tasha. Can you tell us more?" Tasha explained that she and Marcus had booked the same venue for their upcoming wedding. Just like David and Angela, they had received a last-minute cancellation with no clear explanation. "We're devastated," Tasha said, her voice breaking. "We don't know what to do." David's jaw clenched as he listened. The pain in Tasha's voice brought back memories of their own struggle. "Tasha, we understand how you're feeling right now. It's awful, and it's unfair." Angela nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "We had hoped our experience was just a terrible mistake, but hearing this, it's clear there's a pattern of discrimination." Tasha's sobs could be heard through the phone. "We suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed, it hurt so much. We just wanted our special day, you know?" David and Angela's hearts ached for the couple. They knew all too well the pain of having their dreams shattered by prejudice, but they also knew the power of community and love to overcome such obstacles. Angela spoke softly, her voice filled with compassion. "Tasha, we want you to know that you're not alone in this. What happened to you and Marcus, what happened to us, it's not right. But there are people who care, who will stand with you." As more stories of canceled weddings from Black couples surfaced, David and Angela felt a deep sadness settle in their hearts. Each new account was like a painful reminder of their own experience, reopening wounds they thought had healed. One evening, as they sat on their porch, David held Angela's hand tightly. "I can't believe this is still happening," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "It's not fair that so many couples are going through what we did." Angela nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It breaks my heart, David. All these couples wanted was to celebrate their love just like we did." The weight of injustice pressed down on them, threatening to overshadow the joy they had found. But as they looked at each other, something shifted in their expressions. "You know what?" Angela said, sitting up straighter. "We can't let this darkness win. Remember how beautiful our wedding day was?" David's face softened as memories flooded back. "It was perfect, wasn't it? The way everyone came together to help us." Angela smiled, squeezing his hand. "Exactly. We created something so special, so full of love. That's what we should focus on." As they talked, they recalled the details of their wedding day. The restored mansion gleaming in the sunlight, the garden bursting with flowers, and the faces of their loved ones beaming with joy. "Remember when your cousin tripped during the first dance?" David chuckled. Angela laughed, the sound brightening the evening. "Or when the kids got into the cake before we cut it?" With each memory shared, the heaviness in their hearts began to lift. They realized that while the injustice they faced was real and painful, it didn't define their story. What defined them was the love they shared and the community that rallied around them. "We turned our pain into something beautiful," David said softly. "Maybe that's what we need to remember and share with others." Angela nodded, her eyes shining with renewed purpose. "You're right. Our wedding wasn't just about us anymore. It became a symbol of hope, of what's possible when people come together." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over their porch, David and Angela felt a sense of peace settle over them. They knew the fight against discrimination was far from over, but they also knew the power of love and community to overcome it. As the evening wore on, David and Angela sat in comfortable silence, their hearts lighter after reminiscing about their special day. Suddenly, Angela sat up straight, her eyes wide with excitement. "David," she said, her voice filled with purpose. What if we could do something to make sure no other couple goes through what we did? David turned to her, intrigued. What do you mean, honey? Angela's words tumbled out in a rush. Remember how amazing it felt when everyone came together to help us? What if we could create that feeling for other couples? What if we turned the mansion into a real wedding venue? David's eyes lit up as he caught on to her idea. A venue that welcomes everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from? Exactly, Angela exclaimed. We could make it a place where love is celebrated in all its forms. No discrimination, no last-minute cancellations. Just pure joy and acceptance. As they discussed the idea further, their excitement grew. They imagined transforming the mansion and its grounds into a beautiful space where couples could create their own magical memories. We could offer different packages to suit all budgets, David suggested, and maybe even provide support for couples who face discrimination elsewhere. Angela nodded enthusiastically. And we could involve the community too. Remember how everyone pitched in to help us? We could create jobs and bring people together. As they talked, their vision began to take shape. They saw the mansion, not just as the site of their own wedding, but as a beacon of hope and love for others. It won't be easy, David said, his voice serious but determined. We'll need to put in a lot of work, and there might be challenges along the way. Angela squeezed his hand. But think of the difference we could make. We could turn our pain into something beautiful, something that helps others. David smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time. You're right. This is how we fight back against discrimination, not with anger, but with love and inclusion. As the night deepened around them, David and Angela continued to plan, their hearts full of hope for the future they could create, not just for themselves, but for all couples dreaming of their perfect wedding day. As the days passed, David and Angela couldn't shake the idea of turning the mansion into a permanent wedding venue. They spent countless hours discussing the possibilities, their excitement growing with each conversation. One sunny afternoon, they decided to take action. Hand in hand, they walked up to the old mansion, its newly restored facade gleaming in the sunlight. They stood for a moment, taking in the beauty of the place that had become so special to them. This is it, Angela said softly. This is where we start our new journey. David nodded, squeezing her hand. Let's make it happen. They reached out to the property owner, expressing their interest in purchasing the mansion. To their delight, the owner was receptive to their proposal. After several meetings and negotiations, David and Angela became the proud owners of the historic property. As they signed the final papers, they felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't just a business venture, it was a mission to spread love and acceptance. We'll call it Love's Haven, Angela suggested, her eyes shining with tears of joy. David smiled warmly. Perfect, a haven for all kinds of love. They wasted no time in getting to work. They hired architects and designers to help them transform the mansion into a versatile wedding venue while preserving its historic charm. Each room was carefully renovated to accommodate different wedding styles and sizes. The grounds were landscaped to create picturesque settings for outdoor ceremonies. A beautiful gazebo was built near the pond, and fairy lights were strung through the ancient oak trees, creating a magical atmosphere. As word spread about their project, the community rallied around them once again. Local artists offered to create custom pieces for the venue, and skilled craftsmen volunteered their time to help with the renovations. David and Angela made sure that their vision of inclusion was at the heart of every decision. They created policies that ensured all couples, regardless of race, background, or orientation, would be welcomed and celebrated at Love's Haven. As David and Angela embarked on their ambitious project to transform the mansion into Love's Haven, word spread quickly through the community. Once again, friends, neighbors, and even strangers came together to support their vision of creating a welcoming space for all couples. The renovation work began in earnest. On weekends, volunteers showed up in droves, armed with paintbrushes, hammers, and boundless enthusiasm. The sound of laughter and the buzz of activity filled the air as people worked side by side, united in their goal. Angela's eye for design shone through as she guided the transformation of each room. She carefully selected color schemes and decor that would create a warm and inviting atmosphere for future couples. David, with his knack for organization, coordinated the various teams and ensured that every aspect of the renovation was moving forward smoothly. Local businesses pitched in too. A florist offered to plant a beautiful garden on the grounds, while a carpenter crafted custom archways for outdoor ceremonies. An electrician volunteered his services to install twinkling lights throughout the property, adding a touch of magic to the evenings. As the weeks passed, the mansion began to take on a new life. The once crumbling walls were now sturdy and gleaming with fresh paint. The overgrown grounds had been transformed into manicured lawns and charming flower beds. Each room inside the mansion was carefully designed to cater to different wedding styles, from classic elegance to modern chic. David and Angela were overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. They often found themselves wiping away tears of gratitude as they watched their community come together to bring their dream to life. It wasn't just about creating a beautiful venue. It was about building a symbol of love and acceptance for all. One evening, as the sun was setting, David and Angela stood on the mansion's newly restored balcony, overlooking the grounds. They watched as volunteers put the finishing touches on a gazebo by the pond, their figures silhouetted against the golden sky. "Can you believe it?" Angela whispered, leaning into David's embrace. "We're really doing this." David kissed the top of her head, his heart full of love and pride. "We are, and it's going to be even more beautiful than we imagined." As the renovations progressed, news of David and Angela's project spread like wildfire through the community. What started as a local story of triumph over discrimination soon caught the attention of people far beyond their town. The tale of a couple turning their painful experience into a beacon of hope resonated deeply with many. One sunny afternoon, as David was overseeing the installation of new windows, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Curious, he answered the call. "Hello? Is this David?" a cheerful voice asked. "I'm Sarah, and I heard about your wedding venue project. My fiancé and I were wondering if you're taking bookings yet." David's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, wow," he stammered, caught off guard. "We're still in the renovation phase, but I'd be happy to discuss your plans." As he ended the call with Sarah, promising to keep her updated, Angela approached with a spring in her step. "You won't believe this," she said excitedly, waving her phone. "I just got an email from a couple 2 towns over. They want to book Love's Haven for their wedding next summer." David grinned, sharing his own news. "Looks like word is getting out faster than we thought." Over the next few weeks, inquiries started pouring in. Couples from all backgrounds reached out, drawn not only by the beauty of the restored mansion, but also by the powerful story behind its creation. Many shared their own experiences with discrimination and expressed how much it meant to them to have a venue that stood for inclusivity and love. Angela created a waiting list, carefully noting down each couple's details and preferred dates. She and David were touched by the personal stories shared in these inquiries. Each message reaffirmed their belief in the importance of what they were creating. One evening, as they sat on the porch reviewing the growing list of interested couples, Angela turned to David with tears in her eyes. "Can you believe it?" she whispered. "We're not even open yet, and already we're making a difference." David squeezed her hand, his heart full of emotion. "This is more than we ever dreamed of," he said softly. "Love's Haven isn't just going to be a wedding venue. It's becoming a symbol of hope and acceptance." As David and Angela's Love's Haven project gained momentum, a storm was brewing around the venue that had originally canceled their wedding. The couple's story had planted seeds of suspicion in the community, and it wasn't long before those seeds bore fruit. One sunny afternoon, a young couple named Marcus and Jasmine visited the prestigious venue for a tour. They were excited about the possibility of holding their wedding there, but something felt off from the moment they arrived. The staff seemed distant and less enthusiastic than expected. After the tour, Marcus and Jasmine were told that their preferred date was suddenly unavailable, despite being assured it was open when they called to book the appointment. Confused and hurt, they left the venue with heavy hearts. Later that evening, Jasmine scrolled through her social media feed and stumbled upon David and Angela's story. The similarities were striking. With a mix of anger and determination, She decided to share her own experience online. Her post was simple but powerful. Today we experienced what we believe to be racial discrimination at the Grand Manor. They suddenly couldn't accommodate us after seeing us in person. This isn't the first time they've done this. #wedding discrimination. The post spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. People from all over the country began commenting, many sharing their own experiences of discrimination at various venues. As the story gained traction, local news outlets picked it up. Reporters began digging deeper, uncovering a pattern of canceled bookings for couples of color at the venue. The evidence was damning. The venue's social media pages were flooded with angry comments. Their phone lines were jammed with people calling to express their outrage. Couples who had booked the venue for their weddings began to reconsider their choices. One by one, reservations were canceled. The venue's calendar, once filled with bookings, began to empty at an alarming rate. Each cancellation came with a message of solidarity for those who had been discriminated against. As the discriminatory venue faced a dramatic downfall, David and Angela's mansion continued to gain popularity. The couple watched from afar as the story unfolded, their hearts heavy with mixed emotions. David sighed as he scrolled through the news on his phone. "Can you believe it, Angie? The Grand Manor is losing bookings left and right." Angela looked up from her laptop, where she'd been working on their venue's website. "It's sad that it had to come to this," she said softly, "but maybe now they'll realize the harm they've caused." Instead of feeling vindicated by the other venue's misfortune, David and Angela chose to focus on the success of their own inclusive venue. They poured their energy into making Love's Haven a beacon of hope and acceptance for all couples. As word spread about their story and the beautiful mansion they'd transformed, inquiries poured in. Couples from all backgrounds reached out, eager to celebrate their love in a place that stood for equality. "Look at this, David," Angela called out excitedly. "We just got another booking request. It's for a wedding next spring." David walked over and wrapped his arms around his wife. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. We're really making a difference, aren't we?" Angela nodded, her eyes shining with happy tears. "We are, and it feels so good to know that no couple will ever feel unwelcome here." They spent their days giving tours of the mansion, meeting with excited couples and continuing to improve the property. Each time they saw the joy on a couple's face as they imagined their wedding day at Love's Haven, David and Angela felt a renewed sense of purpose. One evening, as they sat on the mansion's restored porch watching the sunset, Angela turned to David. "You know, I'm grateful for what we went through. As painful as it was, it led us here. We're creating something beautiful out of that pain." David squeezed her hand. "You're right, we're not just running a wedding venue, we're building a community of love and acceptance." David and Angela stood hand in hand at the entrance of their newly restored mansion, now officially known as The Sanctuary. A small crowd had gathered for the grand opening, including friends, family, and local media. "Welcome, everyone," David said, his voice filled with emotion. "We're so grateful you're here to celebrate this special day with us." Angela squeezed his hand and continued. "The Sanctuary isn't just a wedding venue. It's a place where love knows no boundaries, where every couple is welcome, regardless of their background." As they cut the ribbon, cheers erupted from the crowd. Guests began to explore the beautifully restored rooms, each one decorated with care and attention to detail. Among the visitors was Lily Chen, a popular local lifestyle influencer known for her stunning photography. She wandered through the mansion, her eyes wide with wonder as she captured every magical corner on her phone. "This place is absolutely breathtaking," Lily whispered to herself as she stepped into the grand ballroom. The crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a warm glow on the polished wooden floors. Later that evening, Lily posted a series of photos on her social media accounts. "I've just discovered a real-life princess mansion," she wrote. "The Sanctuary is like something out of a fairy tale. From abandoned ruin to the most romantic wedding venue I've ever seen, you have to check this place out." Within hours, Lily's post went viral. People from all over the country began sharing and commenting on the photos, marveling at the mansion's transformation. David and Angela were shocked when they woke up the next morning to find their phones buzzing nonstop with notifications. The sanctuary's social media accounts had gained thousands of new followers overnight. "David, look at this," Angela exclaimed, showing him the flood of messages. "People are calling us the Princess Mansion. Can you believe it?" David shook his head in amazement. "It's incredible. All those long nights and hard work, it's paying off in ways we never imagined." As they scrolled through the comments, tears welled up in Angela's eyes. "Listen to this one," she said, her voice trembling. "Finally, a place where every couple can feel like royalty on their special day. Thank you for creating this magical space." The viral story of the sanctuary spread like wildfire across social media platforms. People were captivated not only by the stunning transformation of the once-abandoned mansion, but also by the heartwarming journey of David and Angela. Their story of resilience in the face of discrimination touched hearts and inspired many. As news outlets picked up the story, David and Angela found themselves in the spotlight. They were invited to share their experience on local television shows and in newspaper interviews. Though initially hesitant, they saw it as an opportunity to spread their message of love and inclusion. "We wanted to create a place where every couple feels valued and celebrated," Angela explained during one interview, her eyes shining with emotion. "No one should ever have to face the pain of rejection on what's supposed to be the happiest day of their lives." David nodded in agreement, adding, "The sanctuary isn't just about beautiful weddings. It's about standing up for what's right and creating a community of love and acceptance." Their words resonated with people across the country. Soon, the sanctuary's inbox was flooded with inquiries from couples eager to book their special day at the venue. Many shared their own stories of facing discrimination, expressing how much it meant to them to find a place that welcomed everyone with open arms. Emily and Mina, a same-sex couple from a neighboring state, were among the first to book their wedding at the sanctuary. "When we heard about David and Angela's story, we knew this was where we wanted to start our married life," Emily shared, her voice filled with excitement. "It's more than just a beautiful venue. It represents everything we believe in." As bookings poured in, David and Angela realized they needed to expand their team. They hired staff from diverse backgrounds, ensuring that the sanctuary's message of inclusion was reflected in every aspect of their business. The couple also decided to use their newfound platform to support other marginalized communities. They partnered with local LGBTQ+ organizations and racial equality groups, offering the sanctuary as a space for fundraisers and community events. As the bookings flooded in, the sanctuary quickly became the most sought-after wedding venue in town. David and Angela were overjoyed as the mansion was fully booked for months, with couples praising the beauty of the venue and the couple's inspiring story. Every weekend, the once-abandoned mansion came alive with the sound of music, laughter, and love. Couples from all walks of life celebrated their special days within its restored walls, each adding their own unique touch to the already magical atmosphere. David and Angela found themselves working tirelessly to ensure every wedding was perfect. They poured their hearts into each event, treating every couple as if they were family. Their dedication didn't go unnoticed. "I've never felt so welcomed and understood," said Maria, a bride who had just celebrated her wedding at the sanctuary. "David and Angela made us feel like our love story was the most important thing in the world." The positive reviews poured in, spreading through word of mouth and online platforms. Couples raved about the stunning gardens, the elegant ballroom, and the warm, inclusive atmosphere that permeated every corner of the sanctuary. As demand grew, David and Angela realized they needed to expand their team. They hired local community members, creating jobs and further strengthening their ties to the neighborhood. Each new employee was carefully chosen not just for their skills, but for their commitment to the sanctuary's values of love and acceptance. "Working here isn't just a job," shared James, one of the new event coordinators. "It's like being part of a movement. We're changing people's lives, one wedding at a time." The success of the sanctuary went beyond just hosting weddings. It became a symbol of hope and change in the community. Other businesses in town began to take notice, inspired by David and Angela's commitment to inclusivity. David and Angela stood hand in hand on the balcony of the sanctuary, overlooking the lush gardens where countless couples had exchanged their vows. The setting sun cast a warm glow over the restored mansion, its beauty a testament to their journey. "Can you believe it?" Angela whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. "Look at what we've created." David squeezed her hand, his voice thick with emotion. "It's more than I ever dreamed possible." They fell silent, letting the weight of their accomplishment wash over them. What had started as a desperate solution to their own wedding crisis had blossomed into something far greater. The sanctuary wasn't just a venue, it was a beacon of hope and love for their entire community. Angela leaned her head on David's shoulder. "Remember how scared we were when we first saw this place? It was such a mess." David chuckled softly. "I thought you'd lost your mind when you said we could fix it up in a week." "But we did it," Angela said, her voice filled with wonder. "And now look at it. It's perfect." They both gazed out at the grounds, remembering the army of friends and family who had rallied around them in their time of need. The love and support they'd received had turned their pain into purpose. "You know," David said thoughtfully, "I never thought I'd be grateful for what happened to us. But if we hadn't faced that discrimination, we might never have found this place. We wouldn't be helping all these couples celebrate their love without fear." Angela nodded, wiping away a tear. "We've turned our heartbreak into something beautiful. Every wedding here feels like a victory." As they stood there, basking in the glow of their success, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. The sanctuary had become more than just a business. It was a living, breathing symbol of love's triumph over hate. "We did it, David," Angela said softly. "We really did it." David pulled her close, overwhelmed by how far they had come. From the ashes of their shattered wedding plans, they had built a sanctuary of love and acceptance for all. It was a testament to the power of resilience, community, and unwavering love. As news of the sanctuary's success spread, the original venue that had canceled David and Angela's wedding continued to face mounting backlash. More couples, emboldened by David and Angela's story, came forward to share their own experiences of discrimination. Martha and Michael, a biracial couple, were among those who spoke out. They had been turned away from the venue just months before their planned wedding date. "We were devastated," Martha explained to a local news reporter. "They gave us a flimsy excuse about double booking, but now we know the truth." The venue's owner, Ms. Thompson, attempted to deny the allegations, but her excuses fell flat in the face of overwhelming evidence. Social media was flooded with stories from couples who had faced similar treatment, each account more heartbreaking than the last. As the scandal grew, longtime clients of the venue began to distance themselves. Corporate events were canceled, and engaged couples scrambled to find alternative locations for their weddings. The once prestigious venue stood empty, a stark contrast to the bustling activity at the sanctuary. Local businesses that had partnered with the venue also severed ties, not wanting to be associated with the discriminatory practices. Caterers, florists, and photographers publicly announced they would no longer work with Ms. Thompson's establishment. The financial impact was swift and severe. With bookings drying up and staff quitting in droves, the venue struggled to stay afloat. Ms. Thompson made a last-ditch effort to salvage her reputation by issuing a public apology, but it was too little, too late. Within months, the once thriving business was forced to shut its doors permanently. A for sale sign appeared on the property, a silent testament to the consequences of discrimination. As word of the venue's closure spread, David and Angela felt a mix of emotions. While they took no joy in the business's downfall, they couldn't help but feel that justice had been served. More importantly, they were grateful that their story had given others the courage to speak out and effect real change in their community. David and Angela sat in their newly renovated office at the sanctuary, surrounded by the warm glow of success. The old mansion, once abandoned and forgotten, now bustled with life and love. As they reviewed their bookings for the upcoming months, they couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. "Look at all these happy couples," Angela said, her eyes sparkling with joy as she scrolled through their client list. "It's amazing how far we've come." David nodded, his hand resting gently on Angela's shoulder. "And to think it all started with our own heartbreak, but now we're helping others avoid that pain. As they discussed their plans for the future, a thought occurred to Angela. "You know, David, I think we can do even more," she said, her voice filled with determination. "What do you mean?" David asked, leaning in with interest. Angela's face lit up as she explained her idea. "What if we offered discounted rates for couples who face discrimination or financial hardship? We could make the sanctuary truly accessible to everyone who needs it." David's eyes widened with excitement. "That's brilliant, Angie. We could help so many people who might otherwise miss out on their dream wedding." Without hesitation, they began working on a new pricing structure. They decided to offer significant discounts to couples who could demonstrate financial need or who had experienced discrimination at other venues. It wasn't about making money, it was about spreading love and inclusivity. As word of their new policy spread, the sanctuary received an influx of inquiries from grateful couples. Many shared stories of hardship and discrimination that brought tears to David and Angela's eyes. One afternoon, they met with a young couple, Sarah and James, who had been turned away from multiple venues due to Sarah's disability. As they sat in the sanctuary's cozy consultation room, Sarah's eyes welled up with tears. "We never thought we'd find a place that would welcome us," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've given us hope." David and Angela exchanged a glance, their hearts full. This was exactly why they had created the sanctuary, to ensure that love, in all its forms, had a place to flourish. The sanctuary continued to thrive, drawing more couples from across the country. David and Angela felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their venue was making a positive difference in people's lives. As the months passed, the sanctuary's reputation grew. Couples from neighboring states began to inquire about bookings, drawn by the venue's beauty and the heartwarming story behind it. David and Angela found themselves working longer hours to keep up with the demand, but they didn't mind. Every day brought new joy and purpose to their lives. They paused to watch a couple taking their engagement photos near the fountain. The young man and woman laughed as they posed, clearly in love and excited for their future. David and Angela felt a warmth spread through their hearts, knowing they were part of this couple's happy journey. As they continued their walk, they discussed the upcoming weddings. Each one was special to them, but a few stood out. There was a couple who had been together for 50 years and were finally able to legally marry. Another pair had overcome serious illness and wanted to celebrate their love and renewed health. Each story touched David and Angela deeply. "You know," David said thoughtfully, "I never imagined that our own struggle would lead to something so beautiful. We're not just running a business, we're building a community." Angela nodded, her eyes misty with emotion. "Every time I see a couple exchange vows here, I think about our wedding day, how the community came together for us. Now we're paying that forward, every single day." They reached the gazebo where they had said their own vows, now a popular spot for ceremonies. As they stood there, arm in arm, they felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The sanctuary wasn't just a wedding venue. It was a testament to love, resilience, and the power of community. David and Angela stood at the entrance of the sanctuary, greeting guests with warm smiles and heartfelt hugs. Today was a special day, a celebration to honor the community that had helped them turn their dream into reality. The mansion, once abandoned and forgotten, now stood proud and beautiful, a testament to the power of love and unity. As friends, family, and neighbors filed in, the couple felt overwhelmed with gratitude. They saw familiar faces that had been there from the beginning. Angela's aunt, who had first suggested the mansion, their friends who had spent countless weekends painting and repairing, and neighbors who had donated furniture and decorations. The grand ballroom was filled with laughter and chatter as people mingled, sharing stories of the renovation process. Photos of the transformation lined the walls, showing the incredible journey from a dilapidated building to the stunning venue it had become. David clinked his glass, calling for everyone's attention. As the room quieted, he cleared his throat, his eyes glistening with emotion. "Angela and I can't thank you all enough," he began, his voice filled with warmth. "When we faced discrimination and heartbreak, you didn't just offer sympathy. You offered your hands, your time, and your hearts. This place isn't just ours. It belongs to all of you too." Angela stepped forward, taking David's hand. "The sanctuary isn't just about weddings," she added. "It's about love in all its forms. The love between partners, the love of a community, and the love that pushes us to stand up against injustice." The room erupted in applause, and many eyes were damp with tears. As David and Angela looked out at the sea of faces, they saw more than just friends and neighbors. They saw a family, one that had come together in the face of adversity and created something beautiful. The celebration continued late into the evening. People shared meals, danced, and laughed together. The sanctuary, usually a place for new beginnings, today felt like a homecoming. It was a reminder that love, when nurtured by a community, could overcome any obstacle and create miracles. A year had passed since David and Angela opened the sanctuary, and the old mansion buzzed with excitement once again. This time, it wasn't for a wedding, but for their first anniversary celebration. The couple had decided to mark this special occasion in the very place that had become a symbol of their love and resilience. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the meticulously maintained gardens, guests started to arrive. Friends and family members, many of whom had been instrumental in transforming the mansion, filed in with bright smiles and warm hugs. The grand foyer echoed with laughter and animated conversations. The aroma of delicious food wafted from the kitchen, where caterers bustled about, preparing a feast to rival any wedding reception. David stood at the foot of the grand staircase, greeting guests with a broad smile. He wore a sharp suit, reminiscent of their wedding day. His eyes constantly scanned the room, seeking out Angela. When he finally spotted her, his heart skipped a beat. She looked radiant in a flowing dress, her face glowing with happiness as she chatted with her aunt, the very person who had first suggested the abandoned mansion as their wedding venue. As Angela made her way towards him, David couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come. The pain of discrimination they had faced seemed like a distant memory now, overshadowed by the joy and love that filled the sanctuary every day. "Can you believe it's been a year?" Angela said, slipping her hand into his. David squeezed her hand gently. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday, and other times it feels like we've been doing this forever." The couple made their way through the crowd, stopping to chat with friends and share hugs with family members. The mansion was filled with the same warmth and love that had surrounded them on their wedding day. But now there was an added sense of pride and accomplishment. As they reached the beautifully decorated ballroom, David and Angela paused for a moment. They looked around at the faces of those who had supported them through thick and thin, the same people who had rallied around them in their darkest hour, and helped create this haven of love and inclusivity. David and Angela stood hand in hand on the balcony overlooking the gardens of the sanctuary. The soft glow of fairy lights illuminated the faces of their loved ones below, creating a magical atmosphere. As they gazed out at the scene, they couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the journey that had brought them to this moment. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Angela whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. David squeezed her hand gently. "It's amazing, from that awful day when we got the cancellation notice to this." He gestured to the beautifully restored mansion and the joyful gathering below. They both fell silent for a moment, remembering the pain and uncertainty they had faced. But those memories were now overshadowed by the incredible outpouring of love and support they had received from their community. "You know," Angela said thoughtfully, "I never thought I'd be grateful for what happened to us, but look at all the good that's come from it." David nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "We've helped so many couples have the wedding of their dreams, couples who might have faced the same discrimination we did." The sanctuary had indeed become more than just a wedding venue. It was a symbol of hope and equality, a place where love in all its forms was celebrated without prejudice. As they watched their friends and family laughing and dancing below, David and Angela felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over them. They had turned their pain into purpose, creating a beacon of love that touched countless lives. "We did it, didn't we?" Angela said, her voice filled with wonder. "We proved that love really can conquer all." David pulled her close, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. "We did, and we'll keep doing it, one wedding at a time." As the night wore on, the couple mingled with their guests, sharing stories and laughter. Each person they spoke to had played a part in their journey, from helping to restore the mansion to spreading the word about the sanctuary's mission. The love that filled the air was palpable, a testament to the power of community and the strength of the human spirit. David and Angela's story had become a source of inspiration, proving that even in the face of adversity, love and determination could create something beautiful. If you enjoyed the story of David and Angela, I hand-picked this next story that will touch your heart. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.